Solid modelling is now quicker thanks to a new ability to perform solid combine functions using multiple solids at once. When modelling, using either union or intersection functions, multiple solids can be selected to combine with each other. Now in this case, what we have is a drawing of a component that we wish to create. If I go over to my part view, just have a look, you can see there's a number of solids already in this file. The one I'm interested in at the moment, you can see at the top is one called part, which is on a separate layer. If I turn that layer on, just turn on my shading, you can see this is the component we wish to make. Just going to view from the top, just have a look at my drawing of the component. So in this case I've got some cross sections and an outer profile, and in this case we're going to create an extrusion to generate our shape from a series of intersections. First thing I'm going to do is just hide all of my dimensions. I'm going to generate the shape using curves. So I'm going to create a closed curve around each of these profiles, like so. Once I've created those, I then need to do some rotation. So in this case I'm going to select this outer profile here and use my transform and use the rotate function and go around the top line of the geometry. If I preview this, you can see I rotate into the correct orientation. I'm going to repeat this for the second profile. So again, just go ahead and select it around this line this time, preview and say OK. For the time being I can now hide the geometry. I'm now ready to create my extruded shapes, so I'm going to select this outer profile here. I'm going to go to my solid wizard and extrude from a curve, and in this case I'm going to create as a new base solid and just preview like so. I say finish, and I've now got a new solid created, in this case called solid 5. I'm going to take the rest of these profiles and create additional extrusions. So for this profile here we want to go in the Y direction, in this case I'm going to go 100 millimeters, and again as a new base solid I'll set the Z to 0 and say preview. And then final one, this section here, back into the wizard. In this case I'm going to go minus 150 millimeters and again as a new base solid. I've now got my three solids, and I'm going to use these to create my intersection. So to do this I'm going to go back into my solid wizard, this time into my shape modifiers, and use the combine solid function and choose next. Now the default in this case, the default operation is difference, and you can see we can do a difference between two different solids. However, if I switch to one of the other functions, in this case intersection, you can see I now get a window that allows me to populate with multiple solids. In this case I'm going to use the quick pick function to go ahead and select the solids. So I'm going to identify those three solids and then choose a preview to verify I'm happy with the intersected solid. Say finish, and you can now see that my part view, if I cascade down, you can see all of the original extrusions and so on that make up that solid in the history. Bringing back my geometry, I can then perform other functions. In this case, for example, I can take the solid cut through the model. So I'm going to do as a cut, again minus 50, preview that and say finish. I'm going to hide all my geometry and hide all the curves. So there's my solid. I could also create the holes around the outside if I wish to do so. On another layer, if I go here, you can see I've got a vice component. So what I want to do is I want to move the sliding section of the vice along, but keep the front section of the vice in its current position. So again, we can use the combine function, only this time I'm going to union some of these solids together to minimize the tree. So again, going back to the wizard, into shape modifiers, combine. I'm going to choose the pull down function, union, and again you can see we get the same window. In this case I'm going to select 3 solids that make up the fixed assembly. In this case I'm going to call this one vice fixed. Preview and say finish. And you now see we get a solid called vice fixed. I'm going to repeat that for the sliding part as well. So again, combine, choose a union, and again select those solids. I'll call this one vice sliding. So I've now minimized the tree. You can see I've got those 2 components there. I can then move, in this case I'm going to transform. I'm going to do a translation, and I'm going to move the Y direction of this edge up to the edge of my stock, in this case minus 30 millimeters. It's OK. I can now set these 2 components, so use those solids as clamps. And in this case, if I was to do a quick facing operation, in this case I'll leave it at 0 and say finish, and then do a 3D simulation. My clamps appear like so.